amazing that there are so many projects and practices addressing such a broad range of environmental concerns. So, pertaining to water specifically, we'd just like to ask, how do you ensure the distribution of safe drinking water to West Windsor Township residents?
For most parts, the West Windsor Township residents buy water from the American Water Company, right? So, the company tests water, and I think Health Department has rules and regulations that the water company has to follow through. We do have residents who live on well water. I'm one of them, and then the individual residents are responsible for their own water because they're not buying the water from the water company. In situations like that, health department, you can always call the health department for any tips and suggestions. But as a resident myself who lives on well water, we do check our water level, like, any contaminants in the water. Usually you have to work with the well company to do that. Sometimes it's very usual sometimes to get some sulfur smell in the water because the water is coming from the ground. If something like that were to happen, you have to treat the well to make sure the water is not contaminated or any things. There are free water testing kits available that you can send it to Rutgers, and they will test the water for you to make sure there are no contaminants and stuff like that. So those are the things, and our health department, I think, does a very good job of putting out any information that needs to be put out on our township websites as well.
So pertaining to what you had mentioned before, saying that sometimes through well water you can taste, like, you can see sulfur and things like that. So pertaining to that question, do you have any other personal experiences with noticing contaminants in drinking water? In
our town, in well water, the only thing sometimes I have seen is really sulfur. And it's very easily treatable. You have to just treat your well. We also do have a system in our house to what is it called, the well system, that you just have to put salt in it. It's a conditioning system, water conditioning system. So you have to you get those big 40-pound bags of salt from Lowe's or Home Depot or wherever, and you have to make sure that salt level is kept correct in the water system so that the water is conditioned properly. We haven't personally seen any much of lead contaminations. Some of the old, really old, wells or ponds, sometimes you may see that, but then you do have to have like the right amount of filtration system in there.
Luckily, most of the housing stock in our town is relatively newer, so there's not as much with people having lead pipes in their home.
Right.
Which a lot of times is a problem in towns where there are a lot of older homes. That's one advantage of us having had this booming population
it's more
like in the 90s or so. Sometimes there is with the public system, if they're flushing hydrants, which they have to do on a certain basis, that might cause some kind of a discoloration or
in the water,
in people's water, where there'll be a little brown color to it. They hopefully do announce when that's happening.
I've seen, like, when the hydrants are flushed, or the water company is flushing the water, the pipeline, they do make announcements so the residents are aware that they may see some discoloration in their water for a couple of days. So that announcement does come to the residents ahead of time. So if anybody wants to watch out during those couple of days, they can. If they want to use a different source of water during that time, I think those announcements are made. I've seen that.
Yeah, and I personally, usually for drinking water, I'll use a breeder filter, but that's more for taste. It's not because I'm concerned. And as a matter of fact, for coffee and stuff like that, I just use tap water all the time.
And like, I live on well water, and I just use tap water for drinking purposes as well.
And our water is probably better than a lot of the bottled water, because bottled water isn't really all that regulated. If it comes from somewhere, I mean, unless there's a real issue, I really don't recommend bottled water. just because buying all these bottles is
That's another
environmentally
not friendly
Yeah.
because of all these plastic bottles, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
true.
So
Yeah.
if you're not happy with the taste or whatever, I would suggest buying a filter and which is much more environmentally friendly than trying to come out with these hundreds of plastic bottles.
Yeah,
So,
like one of our things that
Oh.
like one of the things we've been wanting to do recently is that like in the future when we do get more awareness is to have like toolkits, and like in these toolkits we can have like water testing kits include, and also filters to give to places in New Jersey where there is problems with water. For example, like there have been situations with like contaminants in water, like not in West Windsor because West Windsor doesn't really have that problem because I've never really noticed that problem and I drink tap water too. So yeah, but yeah, these are. Thank you.
Yeah, if you're going to do that, do make sure that it's a filter. Different filters take out different things.
Yeah.
So there have been lead problems in places, and there have been other problems in other places. It's not all lead. So you want to keep in mind that this is a very technical area, and one filter may not do what another filter is, and then
and
bacteria is another whole ball
it
game.
depends on where you are giving these kits. So based on where you're giving and what problems they're seeing, you may have to change your kits accordingly.
Yeah, especially since there's some places which have lead problems and other places which have PFAS problems, such as like forever chemicals and things like that, which has been slowly starting to appear now. And so we want to be able to like.
Yeah.
But like thank you for suggesting that.
I do remember, especially in the older schools, there was some concern about lead pipes in like the waters. Now I'm not sure if that was a rumor or not because I was also like 8 years old. But has that ever been a problem? And if so, how was it addressed?
I did hear that a while ago, and I know the school district did address it. They I do recall some years ago that some of the water fountains were closed in some of the schools because of the lead problems. And I do believe, again, that's a question for the district, but I do believe that was addressed, that the pipelines were, I think, changed to, because some of the older buildings possibly had the lead pipes as well.
We do have schools over 100 years old. So.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to try rumors either way on
Right,
that. I would say
so
go to the source and get
Go to the
right
source. I would,
information on that.
yeah, I would go to the source and see if you can get a right answer from them.
Definitely. We have seen improvements in our school considering we have an automatic like water like right?
Oh, automatic like a bottle like water
Water.
dispenser.
Water dispenser for refilling.
Yeah.
Yes, refill
Yes,
stations,
and
right?
by the way,
Yes.
somebody had to fight for that, just so you know. That was a whole thing, and I'm glad that they put that.
Yeah,
No,
we
it's
really
we really appreciate it on day-to-day lives. Like we really appreciate it more than the water fountains, and like when it was closed, it was really hard for us considering some of us do sports. So like it was really hard.
Oh
but
yeah, I
now we
remember
Yeah.
I used to send my daughter with 4
Water bottles.
bottles with ice and hope they would stay for
Yeah.
her.
So no, those water refill stations are great in schools right now because I think
they're
it's really helpful for the students to just bring one reusable water bottle from home and they can refill through the day.
Yeah.
Even for middle school and high schoolers, when you start staying back after school, it's a longer day. You start very early and it's a longer day
and it's
too.
it was very hard to fill the bottles out of regular water fountains.
Yeah.
Yes, I've gone to places and done that.
Okay.
Okay.